Hi, my name is Rick, and I'm a dad. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I do. My duties 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year center on developing character in my son. There are five main categories that I'm going to talk about regarding that. The one is to provide basics, and we all know that as a father, you provide clean clothes, comfortable home, the basics, and all of those things say that this is what a man of character does. A man of character provides for his children, and that's something that I think a lot of us take for granted, but when it comes right down to it, it's all about what we want our children to be for their children. So the basics are important. I go to work, I spend time with my son, I listen, I involve him, I give him responsibilities and set boundaries for them. That's a critical thing, setting boundaries and enforcing boundaries. Not always the most fun, but like I said, it all comes back to developing character, and that's what we want to do. The next thing that I do as part of my job is self-monitor. Now that I'm a dad, I have to consistently self-monitor. Is the man he sees the man I want him to become? I have to be very intentional with teaching values. You know, we've all heard that you reap what you sow, and so I take opportunities every day to somehow teach my values to him. One of the ways I do that, our discussions, we get into some pretty heavy discussions from time to time, and I always make sure that I'm teaching him the principles that I want him to have, and in my case that's biblical principles in our discussion. Role modeling, you know, your children's eyes are watching you all the time, and how I interact with the opposite sex, how I interact with the same sex, how I interact with store clerks, neighbors, what I say, what he hears me say on the phone, what I do with my time, all of that is being very carefully watched. And so role modeling is a very important part of your job as a dad, and doing the wrong things or doing the right things, they seem to always come back to visit, and you'll see some of the things you do mirrored in the things that your child does. So you've got to be very conscious all the time about what you're doing. Being intentional about teaching values and being a good role model involves thinking a lot. You have to put a lot of thought into what you do, and it takes some preparation. I spend time each day thinking and reading and praying about what I've got going on that day, how it's going to be perceived, what's right, what's wrong, and when you do those things, when you provide the basics, you self-monitor, you teach values, you role model, and you are introspective, then it tends to make your stress level as a parent a little bit lower, and as I said earlier, it turns out the product that you want to turn out when they're grown. And when I do those things, the stress level seems to be lower. When I let those things slip or forget about those things or step outside of those, it seems to be more stressful. So those are the things that I have to tell you that I do every day, and those are important things in being a father in my role. Now this next question is an interesting one, because it's what are your qualifications for being a dad? Well, I think as most of us know, our qualifications for being a dad is having sperm to donate. And that's really basically it. That's all it takes, is that donation. You know, plants do it, animals do it, bugs do it, insects. It really doesn't take much to be a father other than a contribution of what the male contributes. So if you're saying I'm qualified to be a father, you're basically saying I'm no different much than a plant or a cockroach for that matter. It really doesn't take a degree, it doesn't take a certificate, it doesn't take a license, it doesn't take any of the things that it takes to be a professional of other sorts. You just, it's all very basic. But if you think that it's that easy, it's really not. The qualifications that you should possess should be driven by thinking that this is not just a product that you're turning out. This is half of you. This is half of you. And so what does this half of you deserve in terms of nurture or in terms of shaping? And it takes a lot of effort and a lot of thought to be a father. It's not just as simple as that donation. And the thing of it is, you really don't know if you've earned those credentials when you become a father, and you don't even know you've earned those credentials after you've become a father, because you're a father your entire life, and you should be working and developing and making yourself into the best father you can be at that stage of your child's development. Obviously, a small child is going to need someone who knows how to do what needs to be done for babies, for toddlers, for preschoolers, and then you learn, about the time you learn how to do those things, then the qualifications change, and then all of a sudden you've got to know how to deal with teachers and schools and softball teams and extracurriculars and things like that, and then they become an adolescent, and everything you've learned before, that gets set aside, and then you've got to learn how to deal with adolescence. And then, of course, there's the teenage years and the college years, and then the later on years when you become the father of an adult, you become a grandparent, it changes. And so the qualifications that you may think you have becoming a parent, those aren't the qualifications that stay. It's a very fluid profession, if you will, and it takes different things at different stages. The best part of the job, I think, is the relationship that you build. There are a lot of fun things you get to do with kids. As a father, at each age and stage of development, there are lots of things that you'll enjoy, and doing those things together will build a relationship that can't be replaced. I think probably most importantly, though, is the legacy that you leave. The person that child becomes, you see that developing as you go along, and that feeling of satisfaction and that feeling of joy that you get from knowing that you contributed to that is it's priceless. It really is. There's a pride that you feel that you've contributed more than 23 chromosomes to this person, this individual who's walking around. The worst part, though, I guess, is that for a period of time you set yourself aside. You put your child and your child's needs ahead of your own quite often, really. Although you're not totally sacrificing everything, it costs you some time, it costs you some of your personal goals. It costs you from being able to explore your own interests. It costs money, as many of us have all learned. The travel that we wanted to do, the hobbies that we wanted to pursue, you get to have some of those things, but you don't nearly get to be as selfish as you were when you are not a father. So it does take some sacrifice, and hopefully the fun and the joy will outweigh the sacrifice, but that's probably the worst part of the job, is looking at some of the others and saying, well, I can't really do that because I've got kids, I've got a family, I've got things I have to pursue. But again, the best part to me outweighs the worst part, and that's just the joy, the legacy that you get to leave in knowing that I've been a good father. And here's my advice about any of you who might be considering becoming a father. If you're not sure that you're up to the task, then abstain or practice birth control. It's really that simple. If you're not up to the task, then it's really not a risk that you should be willing to take. You'll feel cheated. You'll feel like you've gotten in over your head. You'll feel that you're not getting to do the things you want to do. Be ready to be a father. Start now being the kind of person that you want to be. Start now being the kind of person that's going to turn your child into the person that you want him to be. It always helps to be established financially. This is not a profession that you go into to make money. This is a profession you go into to lose money. And the price that you pay it's determined, or it determines how much that you're going to get out of it. But be established financially. There's lots of pressure from lots of other sources, and money is just one of those things that you can do your best to eliminate the pressure that you get from that. The other bit of advice is make sure the other donor, if you will, shares your values. As I said earlier, it's half you. This person is half you, but it's also half someone else too. And to be able to choose someone that shares your values and has your same goals and dreams and hopes for parenting, that's very, very important. Expect partnership in all endeavors. It's really too hard to do by yourself. So if you want to be a father, that's my biggest piece of advice. Find someone that will share that duty and someone that will take that responsibility seriously and walk through it together, because it's a difficult job and it takes more than one person to do it.